We here at Uninterrupted are very excited to announce our brand new sponsor, the United Nations.
United there, United Nations.
The United Nations is a fantastic, fantastic product. Now you might be thinking, the United Nations, all they're good for is undermining national sovereignty. Not true. They also run some of the world's most successful child pedophilia rings. It's true. So you might think, hey, what do I need the United Nations for? Well, exactly. So you might be thinking, how do I get this fantastic product, the United Nations, that I love so much? Too bad, you're already subscribed. Ha 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 ha. They made us read that. So again, the United Nations is a fantastic product and everyone should love. And as the United Nations grand slogan goes, hey, whatever happens, let's just blame the Jews.
United there, United Nations.
In a world gone mad, only one man, okay, maybe more, had the courage to ramble on incoherently. The show is up and the reviews are in. This is the show that many people have described as good. Uninterrupted, Wednesday nights on Tag TV. We're good? Okay. Welcome, Canada, to the night we've all been waiting for. It's the election special, where we're going to break down every single political party going in polling order, starting with the defending champs, Gibberish McCommieface, the Liberal Party, that's what they're called. So how this is going to work is I'll give a bit of an intro to Canadian elections, then we're going to cover every party, we're going to talk about who their leader is, we're going to, each of the federal leaders actually has a superpower you're unaware of. I will let you know what it is. Then I will let you know who their campaign manager really is. It might say something on the website that is wrong. I will tell you who is trying their hardest to get this person elected. Then we'll go over the meat of each party's platform and policies, what you need to know about those parties, what they say they're going to do, what they really do, what they have done in the case of the Liberals. Then after we go through their platforms, I'm going to tell you what the slogan of their party really is, because all these parties have slogans, but they're lying to you. They're not what their real slogans are. I will tell you what they actually are. Then I will give you what I think their pathway towards victory is, so some analysis of what I think they need to do, and what are their chances going into the election, how it looks right now. So we'll do that for every single party, starting with the Liberals. But first, let us just backtrack on our notes here. Canada is a parliamentary democracy, or a constitutional monarchy, whatever you want to call it. Basically, our system is a parliamentary first-past-the-post system, which means, sorry PPC, but this is where things get a bit tricky. It's not like an American election, it's not like Brexit. An American election is where you have basically two different parties, they fight over different states, and whoever wins those states, they get points, they accumulate. No. How Canada works, it's we have different ridings. So in population densities of a couple 100,000, it gets different provinces you're in. Each sort of central population area, there's a mini election within that riding. Whoever gets the most of that vote within the riding, right? It's first past the post. You don't have to get 50%, right? It's just, you can win a riding theoretically with 20%, right? It could go 20, 19, 19, 19, 19, and then stragglers for the rest. You could win a riding that counts as one seat at 20%. Another party could win a riding with 75%. It's still one seat, one seat. All 338 ridings. Right? If you get the majority of the 338, you form parliament, and we elect each MP. The parties themselves elect a leader, so you're basically voting for a leader, but you're not voting for a leader. This is how Canadian politics work. So this is why it is harder for sort of newer or fringe parties to get seats within our parliament, because it's a first-past-the-post parliamentary system. All right, excellent. So let us start with the first party, our defending champions, the Liberal Party. And they are run by this man, Justin Trudeau, who, let's meet him.
Hey, I'm about to head into a big Windsor rally. Their energy is incredible, and I can't wait. Mais l'énergie est incroyable à travers le pays. We have a big choice to make. I choose forward. I choose forward.
What a putz. Okay, so that's Justin Trudeau. He is a leader of the Liberal Party, and he has a superpower. His superpower is nice hair, though. Basically, look at that sexy guy. This is how he got most of his votes last time, is because people looked and said, he's good looking. And yes, I did talk to women who said his butt and his hair were the reasons they voted for him. So his superpower is essentially being better looking than all the other uggos running for prime minister. Oh boy, what a real country we live in. All right, so that is that. Now, who is the Liberals' campaign manager? Who is running their election? Who's trying to get them? So let's meet the Liberals' campaign manager here, and it is the media. The media is running the Liberal campaign. The person trying the hardest to get Justin Trudeau elected is the mainstream media. This would be the CBC, Global News, CTV, basically printing biased nonsense stories, or as I talked about, fake news that omits real facts in favor of Justin Trudeau. So that is their campaign manager. All right. Now, what are some of their policies? As we know, one of the founding principles of Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party is terrorists before veterans. Veterans are asking for too much because, honestly, what do veterans give other than everything they can? And he at the Liberal debates, he was the one who said, I believe the Liberal Party believes that terrorists have the right to keep their citizenship because I believe it. He's the man who, even though there was a legal case against Omar Khadr, terrorist extraordinaire, he paid Omar Khadr $10.5 million. This was an executive decision from the Prime Minister's office, and this will become a bit of a theme here to give them terrorism funding. All right, so before we move off, let's get to sort of the corruption of Justin Trudeau, because this is part of the policy, and this is sort of what he believes. SNC-Lavalin, what is it? What's happening? This is sort of the most indicative thing of Justin Trudeau's entire, we'll call it political ethos, political theory. Now, we had the previous ethics violation, which was him taking a private vacation with the Aga Khan, who is a registered lobbyist. That's a big no-no, and then lying about it. That is small potatoes compared to this, because the SNC-Lavalin scandal is the biggest scandal in Canadian history and threatens the entire, I would say, structure of our government and country moving forward. Because, as I've said, in America, right, there are three different types of government. There are three branches of government. You have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Okay. Now, in Canada, because it's the first past the post parliamentary system, our executive and our legislature is combined into one. That means the Prime Minister has a hand in creating the laws that go to Parliament. Now, you can say that he's technically not so much the executive because he himself has admitted he's just a figurehead, but the Prime Minister's office itself has been acting in a quasi-dictatorship form. So we talked about the PMO was involved in the Omar Khadr affair. They were involved in another investigation into terrorism and corruption the RCMP had, which cost us $33 million. But so we have a balance between powers, or supposed to in a democracy. But the executive and the legislature, so it's like, think of the president and the House is combined into one. Then you have a Senate. Now the Senate in America, Congress is pretty useless, but what is more useless than the American Senate? The Canadian Senate. The Canadian Senate is absolutely nothing. Does nothing, hear no evil, see no evil, do nothing. It does nothing, it serves no purpose at this time. So it's effectively useless. So you have the entire legislature of an executive branch under the control of the Prime Minister's office. That means the judiciary is the only sort of check and balance we have within the system to keep him under power. And the SNC-Lavalin affair is Justin Trudeau taking money from a personal donor in SNC-Lavalin, a Quebec company, Quebec construction company, so basically the mafia, to create a special law into Canadian rule, which is the Deferred Prosecution Agreement for their crimes in Libya at the beginning of the 21st century. Now, the whole point of this was to avoid a criminal conviction. That way they could continue to bid on government contracts, right? It wouldn't disqualify them. It just means the government couldn't hand them contracts. So no one was actually going to lose jobs, and SNC-Lavalin themselves have admitted this, but Justin Trudeau has, he did kick out the Attorney General for not siding with him and, basically combining the judiciary under the Prime Minister's office. He then replaced it with David Lametti. So this is the policy of Justin Trudeau's Liberals. It is totalitarian. It's not totalitarian. Well, the left is a bit totalitarian, but it is dictatorial, to say the least. It is combining all the executive power, all the power of government into the fist of the Prime Minister's office. And it has been used consistently against his political detractors, whether Jane Philpott, Jody Wilson-Raybould. So part of the Liberal platform It doesn't say it there, but it has been clearly expelled. And if you vote for Justin Trudeau, what you are voting for a quasi-dictatorship. What you are voting for is someone who will concentrate all the powers of government into one office. And remember, I try and say this to people on the left or the right all the time. If you hate Stephen Harper, okay, you hate Stephen Harper. He's evil. He's evil. He's going to eat your kids, right? Look out behind you. Stephen Harper might be there. If you hate him, and you really, really hate him because he's so evil, don't give Justin Trudeau the power you don't want Stephen Harper to have. For the Americans, right, don't give Barack Obama any power you don't want Donald Trump to have. Because all the executive power Barack Obama accrues means the next president in line, Donald Trump, has those powers as well. This is giving the entire power of the Canadian system to one man and his sort of staffers in office. That is so dangerous. So that is the number one policy is, corruption to the highest degree, arrogance, lying. And Justin Trudeau says he cares about jobs and he'll always protect Canadian jobs, except in Alberta. A big FU to Alberta is on. I believe if you go to the Liberal Party platform, it does say, screw you, Alberta, right there. Okay, so what is also in it? Their big crowning achievement is the child benefit. So what the Liberals have done is basically, if you have kids, they just throw a bunch of money at you. If you have a basic understanding of economics, you understand why this is a problem. You can't just, sort of subsidize these things. It is a bad economic policy if you have people who can come here, not have a job, collect welfare, and then support a family of 10 kids. And the way they support a family of 10 kids is because each kid becomes a paycheck, right? When you have kids just becoming a paycheck, you're going to get neglectful parents and parents who just say, yeah, let's just have a kid for a paycheck. This ends up being a massive drain in the system. Not everyone, I have a kid and he's a this and the single mom or the thing. Okay, exceptions. But when you mass incentivize certain behaviors, they're going to happen. You're incentivizing, bad parenting decisions here. So they cut different tax credits. Tax credits, although not perfect, and I do like how the People's Party will make the actual libertarian argument because it's about time someone does that. Tax credits for good behavior are much better than subsidizing random behavior because that will just ruin the economy. The child welfare benefit is just it's an economic crisis waiting to happen. It's never worked and it never will. It's just building a giant. It's throwing money into a hole. Okay. Now tax and spend, tax on the wealthy. Now, one of the things that the media will tell you, and the media, of course, being Justin Trudeau's campaign manager, is when people say tax cuts, they'll say it's a tax cut for the rich or tax cuts of this. They will worry about government revenue. How are we going to make up the government revenue? God forbid people keep some of their own money. But what we are not going to talk about here is Justin Trudeau came in and increased taxes, right? It's 92% of families pay more taxes under Justin Trudeau than they did beforehand. No matter what he says, he's lying. But Justin Trudeau increased taxes, government revenue went down. Justin Trudeau increased taxes, government revenue went down. How could this happen? One, capital flight, right? So if you want to tax the ultra-wealthy, they can just move, right? They have the financial means to move out of the country and go somewhere that is not attacking their business. Capital flight, Venezuela. Two, the Lafleur curve. There is a relationship between how much you tax and the eventual drop-off. So there's an economic phenomenon known that, right, you can't just tax people at 99%. Because once you start taxing people higher and higher, your revenues actually start to go down at a point. And the reason this is because people then have less money to spend. So we'll go over this more on the Conservative plan, but when people have more money to spend, right, they go into the economy, people are doing better, small businesses thrive more, right? If small businesses are doing $100,000 a business under Justin Trudeau because people are tight economically, and they start to do $180,000 of business once the economy improves and people have more money to spend, right? You're actually getting tax revenue on $180,000, not $100,000. And also, this is why the corporate tax is bad, and the payroll tax. Nuke the payroll tax, and the carbon tax, and the corporate tax, because these are taxes that disincentivize hiring. So when you have people who, because of high tax rates and corporate taxes and reasons, can't get hired, right? So what's the, how much taxes can you get out of someone making $55,000 a year? Let's say, okay, $7,500, make up a number, right? That's how much you get out of them, right? At 20%. Now, if you increase the tax rates, you have a lot of people who would be making $55,000 a year. Instead, they're on welfare because they don't have jobs because of the economy. So instead of paying in the couple $1,000s from their taxes, they're now taking out. This is the Lafave curve. This is why we increase taxes and government revenue decreased. Almost every single study you will see on these parties' platforms and the cost-benefit analysis done, if it's done by the now there are some other organizations, but if it's done by the CBC, Global News, CTV, I can almost guarantee you, I will bet this Canadian flag and your first child's life, I will bet you that it is a univariate analysis, which means they take one variable and they just do some basic addition and subtraction, right? So if we're going to increase taxes on the ultra wealthy, Jagmeet Singh's plan, right? We're just going to increase taxes on people making over $200,000 from 50 to 75%, right? Just going to say, okay, at their current rate, they're making that's an extra $100,000 times this amount, right? Addition and multiplication. It will never take into effect what are the effects of increased tax rates on businesses and what would the new situation be. That's a multivariate analysis. Almost all the party platform analysis you'll see from CBC and the others are univariate analysis, and essentially stupid propaganda is how I will phrase that. Okay, what else is part of their platform? A bribe to the media. So this campaign manager is actually the most well-paid campaign manager in the history. $595 million they're paying their campaign manager at the mainstream media. This is a media bribe. So, as we said in the SNC-Lavalin, it is a concentration of all three powers of government. The media likes to call itself the fourth estate, the final check and balances. They're going to keep the government honest. Well, one, the CBC is part of the government, but now all of the medias will be bailed out with $600 million, 595, 600 million. Oh, that would be an ethical catastrophe. Now, I've said the real way the media is uncompetitive, one, because they lie a lot and no one really trusts them. Public trust has eroded in these institutions. That's number one. But number two, there actually are economic conditions on the media that make it sort of unfair in the marketplace. This would be, there's different taxes and advertising, so it's way more expensive to advertise in a newspaper or on a mainstream because there's taxes included than just going onto the internet. So like newspapers, one, dying because it's a newspaper. Who reads the newspaper other than my grandmother, who then sends it to us, and we don't even need it because we have the internet, right? So unless you're my grandmother, or maybe your grandmother, you're probably not reading the newspaper, grandfathers included. So another reason, though, is these publications, it's more expensive to advertise on them. So even the government, when they do their advertising, they don't even advertise with the institutions they're bailing out because it's way more expensive to do so. So the real way, if you want to help the media, is taking away all these taxes but taking away a tax that is anathema to the Liberal government because that might be sensible. Now, we should talk about, none of this was done, but the taxes they put on small businesses, doctors, and sort of changing the corporate tax structure has really, really killed the Canadian economy. If you remember, all throughout Yonge Street, every single business all across Yonge had signs about stopping this different tax bill. Because essentially, as a small business or as a corporation, this includes doctors, farmers, independent contractors like carpenters or whatever. They could have about, it was I think 23%. They could, if you kept your income inside your business, right, you could, about 23% of it is taxed. Whereas if you took, now under the new rules, it's something like 78%. So it utterly kills, and this is the benefit to incorporating, is that you'll be able to sort of keep your money in the business. Now, keeping your money in your business, which is healthy for a business, this has now been disincentivized in the system. It's a major killer to small business, which is the backbone of our economy. Now, of course, Justin Trudeau and Bill Morneau called these people, this is doctors, farmers, and small business owners, tax cheats. At the same time, they did not reform the laws that pertain to their specific trust funds, as they are trust fund babies. And Bill Morneau, before the tax credits did go in, this is the finance minister, he did sell hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock in his investments that were hit by these new tax changes. So, honesty and integrity, choose forward. Okay, what else? So that's the media bribe. So they bought off the media, complete corruption of the fourth estate. Of course, globalism is a big part of their policy. Now Trudeau is the ultimate sort of, when we talk about globalism versus nationalism, Trudeau is the ultimate globalist. And when I say globalist, I always make the distinction between globalization, which I don't have a problem with, and globalism. So globalization is international trade. I think we should have free trade with America, free trade with this, free trade with countries that participate in the marketplace honestly and equivocally. Okay. Globalism, though, is the opposite of nationalism, which is ceding national control to organizations like the EU or the UN, open borders policy. This is sort of Trudeau as saying Canada has no core Canadian values. This is a pillar of the Liberal Party, and of course every party to its left. And he's also been in trouble because he sort of straddles the middle ground in a lot of these things. The best example is the pipeline, right? He killed the pipelines in Trans Mountain, had to move. Could you imagine if we had independent oil right now with this nonsense going baton between Saudi Arabia and Iran? That would be great. But he sort of bought the pipeline, but then killed the project. He's sort of straddling the middle here where he's not really making anyone happy, and he shouldn't make anyone happy. He has a terrible approval rating because he is terrible. Terrible. So that concludes the policies of the Liberal Party. And if I'm going to rate them out of 10, I give them a F out of 10. F out of 10 for the Liberal Party. Massive F, which means the real slogan of the Liberal Party is, vote for us or you're racist. Vote for us or you're racist, Liberals 2019. Now, what is the pathway towards victory here for the Liberals? I'm going to talk about the pathway towards victory is sort of apathy, number one. Apathy, left-wing moral panic over through media is another way. If the PPC and the CPC split the Conservative vote, they could walk in. They could be the leaders of a coalition left-wing nightmare government. That'd be good. Now, we have to talk about sort of the fatal flaw in the Liberal Party. So there's extremism. Let's bring up let's just run over some of their more extreme candidates, because the Liberals are full of them and every party has them, but the Liberals are known for them. So let's just run through some of the people here and some of the ideology represented within the Liberal Party. So here we have Omar Al-Ghabra. Omar Al-Ghabra is so associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, it's not even funny, but he is on record stating that he is disappointed that Ontario rejected Sharia courts. He wants Sharia law in Ontario, and he's very angry at the 60 to 70% of Muslims in Ontario that voted against Sharia law. So that's Omar Al-Ghabra, Sharia law enthusiast. Next we have Iqra Khalid, whose father is a senior member of Jamaat-e-Islami. That is an organization, if you just look at their Wikipedia page, says they want a global caliphate and destruction of all governments, Islamic caliphate all over the place. Iqra Khalid, architect of M103. Why do we take her? Next, we have Majid Jauhari. So Majid Jauhari is the man, he has the arrow on top of him, not on the far, I think he'd be far left. Majid Jauhari here he is a Liberal MP, and he is here, and the other guy with it is Reza Hossein Nassab. That is a major cleric who the CRA says runs and promotes Iran's ideology in Canada. And the cleric's son works in Majid Jauhari's office. So Majid Jauhari is a prop of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is Khomeinism. This is another type of extremism. And finally, the other type of extremism rampant in the Liberal Party is Khalistani movement. We will use Representative Raj Gurwal here. Raj Gurwal. If you remember Raj Gurwal, this is why the media is so important. Raj Gurwal is a man. If you remember, he had a scandal. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars in gambling debt. There was a big scandal about it. He said he was going to have to resign because you can't have an MP and hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. They become susceptible to bribes. But then he didn't resign because the next week, boom, the debt all went away. How did that happen? Because he's a Khalistani, and his uncle is literally on video in Pakistan holding an AK-47 talking about doing terrorist attacks against India. He is a pawn of the Khalistani movement, and the Indian government is pretty sure that we are, infested with Khalistanis all over the place. And even an MP in the Liberal Party said that was true. So that is all you need to know about the Liberal Party. We could go on for hours just how terrible they are, but we only got one. All right, let's move on to party number 2. Second in the polls is the Conservative Party of Canada, run by Andrew Scheer. Look at him, it's Andrew Scheer. Oh, he's so boring. Okay, I'm going to try and stay awake doing this, talking about Andrew Scheer, which no one has ever done. No one's ever talked about Andrew Scheer for more than 10 minutes without falling asleep, but I will be the first. So what is Andrew Scheer's superpower? Andrew Scheer is the only 6'4" man in the world who has the ability to camouflage himself in an open field. See him? He's right there. Do you see Andrew Scheer? See, he's there. I'm telling you, he's there. Right? Amazing. So boring. I'd say you can't miss him, but you can always miss him. All right, so that is Andrew Scheer. That is his superpower. Who is Andrew Scheer's campaign manager? Let's meet Andrew Scheer's campaign manager. Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is trying his hardest to make Andrew Scheer Prime Minister of Canada. Every time this vapid idiot opens his mouth, everyone says, oh God, I have to vote for someone else. So Justin Trudeau, thank you for doing all you can to get the Conservatives into power. All right, let's get into some Conservative policy. Tax cuts across the board. Great, 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 great. Growing everyone's taxes. The economy is so uncompetitive. Canadians are, there's massive economic anxiety. Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Having Canadians keep more of their own money in their own pockets will help out every single Canadian. I love it that the CBC, we should have had this article, but I just thought of putting it up now. But the CBC actually ran an article today, or I think it was yesterday, that Andrew Scheer's tax cut for everyone isn't really a tax cut for everyone because it doesn't include people who don't pay taxes. That's right, Andrew Scheer is a dirty, lying liar because my 6-month-old nephew who pays no taxes right now will also keep paying no taxes. We're never going to talk about the fact that he can't even form a sentence, but he's not getting a tax break. Therefore, Andrew Scheer is lying. This is the state of the media. Oh, God. So as we talked about, Justin Trudeau raised taxes, government revenue went down. When you do things to help stimulate the economy, like lowering taxes, you will actually find on a multivariate analysis, government revenue will go up because we'll be in a stronger condition. And also, if Canadians have money, that's better than the government of Canada having money. It's taxpayer money, right? Tax cut's good. Okay, no GST on home heating. That was his big thing before the election started. I guess good. Yeah, not paying extra tax on your tax on home heating. Okay, good. Okay, now the really good. Hopefully, he follows through on this. Hopefully. Canceling the carbon tax. Remember, I threatened to nuke the carbon tax earlier, so of course I'm in favor of canceling it, which is the non-absurd way of getting rid of it instead of nuking a metaphorical construct. But either way, getting rid of the carbon tax, good, good, good. He is instead going to replace it with a green home credit. Now, this is where the PPC will say he's essentially going to keep the carbon tax. No. Now, is their policy on the carbon tax as good as the PPC's? No. I will grant you that. And the argument made here is, these green home credits and these tax credits, the best way is just have a flat economy, flat tax rate, not give any benefits, no corporate welfare, no corporate taxes, just that is the best way to do it. I agree. But the reason there is a green home credit, is because the media is going to hammer him, and Canadians are pretty eco-obsessed, and say it's basically having it here because the media will say he has no green energy plan. He has no green plan, even though Ontario's green energy increased emissions by 50%, and the same idiots who designed that are currently in charge of the federal plan. Either way, the media will hammer him. It is sort of a way to keep the media off his back, as I see it. He's going to reinstitute the fitness credit, the child arts credit, the public transit credit. Okay, I don't care. Again, tax credits don't really do much. They're not the most efficient way, but it's a way to sort of push back, keep more money in Canadians' pockets, I guess. Okay, build pipelines. Build pipelines. Good. We're going to talk about this in a bit. He will declare the IRGC a terrorist organization. They are a terrorist organization. They should be terrorists. Move the embassy to Jerusalem. That is good. That's again, an anti-globalist policy. Countries should have national rights. A country should say, this is what our capital is, and we should put our embassies in their capital, not go by what UN votes say, where you will have to listen to a bunch of Islamists and dictators. I don't think that makes sense. Okay, new policy just announced today. They cut $1.5 billion in corporate welfare. Woohoo, that's great. Again, I'm in favor of the right amount of corporate welfare. The right amount of handouts to corporations is zero. Zero. The correct rate for the corporate tax is zero. Zero. Both should be at zero. We shouldn't give them any handouts, and the corporate tax is a double tax. Corporations already pay taxes and everything else, and the corporate tax is primarily a tax on the middle class. We don't have time to get into it, but cut corporate welfare, cut corporate taxes, across the board. No subsidies for fossil fuel. Yeah, no subsidies for anyone. Liberals love corporate welfare. They claim it's a conservative thing, but that's just a lie. It's a staple of the Liberals, the Democrats, all this, because they get these companies into sort of a welfare trap. This is why there was a story in Ontario of how, in the last year of Kathleen Wynne, Toyota made $280 billion of global profits, but they were still getting hundreds of millions of dollars from Ontario to have a plant here. And people are saying, well, why are the corporate subsidies if Toyota's making all this money? And that's because the only reason Toyota had a plant in Ontario is because their taxes were so high, it made no sense to have a plant in Ontario. The only way they had it there is we took the taxes that they paid us and we essentially funneled it back to them as corporate welfare to bribe them to stay. If you just cut that out, right, you cut out the bureaucracy, you save everyone money and time. Okay, so let us get back to sort of what is the case for the Conservative Party here. And the case for the Conservative Party ultimately is it's best for Canada to go for it. Now, I had made the case beforehand that there is an important message to be sent to Justin Trudeau that you have to say, the reason to vote Conservative is sort of the stop Trudeau vote. Justin Trudeau is such an unprecedented danger to our country. He can destroy the entire economy and all that, that it is imperative that we just say, no, Justin Trudeau's antics will never be tolerated again. So the left learns, okay, we can't go that far left, to sort of slap the left back in. Now, the PPC people could say, well, he would have been this conservative if not for the PPC, and I actually think that's a valid argument. But with the new policies coming out from Andrew Scheer, they actually are more conservative. So now there is enough here where I can say this is conservative enough that justifies a vote on the merits of conservatism. Again, tax cuts across the board, ending corporate welfare, this is all good stuff. But there is another massive benefit we need to talk about, which is saying, he's actually going to get the oil and gas to market is so important. The Liberals have stalled it. When Obama was in power, we had all the approvals from Harper. Canada was good to go, but Obama would stall the Canadian oil and gas industry while being afraid of the American one. We loved him for it because we're, stupid left. Now, Trump is in power, so all the go-aheads are good south of the border, but Trudeau's stopping it up north. If we get Andrew Scheer in, well, Donald Trump still has office. We will be able to finally get all our energy products approved, and we can start the pathway towards energy independence. Our economy can be safe. If there is an outcoming war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, we really, really, really want natural gas production to be self-sufficient. We really want pipelines to get oil from Canada to Canada, get American oil to Canada, get Canadian oil to America, get Canadian oil to market. We desperately need this. And the economic confidence that comes with conservative governments will increase, will benefit every single Canadian. So there is enough here, and I'm going to be voting for Conservatives. Now, I will do videos later on Conservative Party candidates you cannot vote for because they are either Muslim Brotherhood plants or ISI affiliated. We'll come up with that video later because we can't. Listen. If I had to go through every extremist running for Canadian Parliament, this show would be 11 hours just on that. So it's impossible. But there is enough here that the humanitarian thing to do. For Canadians, for families, for people in Alberta, Saskatchewan, even Quebec, is to vote a Conservative government into power where the Canadian economy can, because we're in such a position to thrive with oil prices going up, with Iran and Saudi Arabia getting into a kerfuffle. Canada can become a global economic power. We can restore our global image instead of having this idiotic fool running our country, destroying our reputation. We can get the Harper years back, and that would be a great thing. So I like that he's being more conservative, but there is a fatal flaw in the Conservative Party. And anytime you post a video about the Conservative Party on a Conservative page, you're going to get people bringing up this. So let's bring up this picture, which is him meeting with some extremists. So the man directly on Scheer's right has a YouTube video on how to properly beat his wife. He did sit down with these people. He did talk about, not investigating Islamist extremism. He did basically completely capitulate to Islamism. Andrew Scheer is not the man to take on political Islam, Islamic extremism. He is bent over to Islamists. And this is a major problem for a lot of people. And I totally understand it. It's a major problem for me too. And it is the key flaw in his argument. And this is his key flaw in his party platform. And he lost a lot of people. And he had to win me back by, if it wasn't just economic conditions and Scheer being so bad, if this was like John Chrétien, I might vote PPC because of what he did to Salim Mansour. Salim Mansour, Tahir Gora, a lot of great candidates were denied because extremists complained. So they are fine running extremists. There's a conservative candidate who's an ISI plant who cannot speak English. I'm going to try and expose him. He let him into the party, right? He can run. But Salim Mansour, who has a history of being, a professor, a scholar, a fighter for Canadian values against extremism, a Muslim man himself, wasn't allowed to run for the Conservative Party because they were afraid that extremists would be upset. So this is the fatal flaw in the Conservative Party. It's their capitulation to extremism that has made a lot of people angry. And they think that they thought they could just give in and we'd all sit down and take it. And some people said no, and they formed a new party. And I think the PPC is Andrew Scheer's fault. So, all right, that wraps up the Conservative Party platform. What do I give it out of 10? 7 out of 10 so far. 7 out of 10, could go higher, could go lower. They haven't released it all, but right now, good enough, and especially with Trudeau, passing grade, 7 out of 10. Which means the real slogan for the Conservative Party is, please, please, please don't hate us. Please don't hate us. Drink milk. All right, that is Conservative Party Mandate 2019. Cowardice, drink milk. All right. Path towards victory. This is important. The number one thing they need to do in order to win, if they do not do this, they will lose, embrace Stephen Harper. So far, people are trying to say, Andrew Scheer, Stephen Harper with a smile. Trudeau's trying to say, we're going to go back to the Harper years. Now, I'm gonna relate this to a bit of psychology here and body language. It's the mentality you give off. So I'm really good with dogs and kids. And the reason I'm good with dogs and kids is because I know they just sense emotion. I just think I am, right? If the people who babies always cry around are these nervous wrecks, I don't know what to do with a baby. It's a fucking baby, just hold it. Don't throw it in the garbage. It's a baby, it's fine. Just make faces, who cares? Right? The people are, I don't know. The baby senses, I don't know, because it gets emotions. Then it starts crying. Same thing with dogs. The people who are nervous around dogs, dog gets nervous around them. It's a feedback loop. If you're just like, dog, whatever, the dog's usually cool with you. And this applies to populations as well. I'm not saying people are animals, but I'm just saying people give into the vibes you give off. And what I'm saying here is if you give into the notion, right, if you push, you say, I'm not Stephen Harper. No, it's all different. You're seeding the ground that, yes, Stephen Harper conservative values are actually bad, and you get that intuition. Instead, you need to lean into it and say, yeah, I hope I'm as good as Stephen Harper. The strongest middle class in world history was under Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper is the man who looked Vladimir Putin in the eyes on national TV. He said, I will shake your hand, sir, but you have to get out of the Ukraine. And I, Andrew Scheer, I'm proud to follow in his legacy as I'm the only political candidate banned from Russia, because I stand for what I believe in, just like Stephen Harper did. Say that, because people now actually have a pretty positive view of Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper years were pretty financially successful. There was a global recession, and Canada was the strongest country in the entire G8 economically. People remember Stephen Harper fondly. If the Conservatives back away from Stephen Harper, they will lose. If they embrace him, they will win. Stay on point in the debates. Andrew Scheer should not spend time trashing Maxime Bernier or trying to call him a liberal plant. Don't get caught up in this. Use Maxime Bernier to your advantage when you're on stage for it with him. Do what you did with the other debates. Have Trudeau there, bash Trudeau, say why you're better, say your piece. Use Maxime Bernier as a club for the left, because the left is crazy, and Maxime Bernier can club the left. If Maxime Bernier, wants to attack Andrew Scheer, you can just say, okay, fine, that's you, but I'm different. But when Scheer goes after Maxime Bernier, he cannot embrace radical left-wing theology to do it. And I call it theology because it's a cult now. But if he is to go at Maxime Bernier, if Bernier goes at him, he can go back, have a spine, it's great. But don't embrace radical left-wing theology when you attack Maxime Bernier. If you do, because then you cede the ground to the left and you will lose. Can't do that. Attack the media. A great thing to do. The people don't trust the media. People know it. If you say things that are anti-media, yes, the media might try and make you a Trump or whatever, that's only good for you. It will increase your airtime, right? Instead of them saying, he once said bad things about abortion and gay marriage 15 years ago, they'll say, is Andrew Scheer like Trump because he attacks the media? And people actually like the side of Trump. Conservatives and people and people in the center, the side of Trump they like is that he goes after the media. They might not like his shenanigans, but it is a winning strategy in today's day and world. The media, everyone hates it. Point out media bias, attack the media, call the media a party, do what I do, and call them Justin Trudeau's campaign manager. Feel free to use this. That is a winning strategy. And be more conservative. Be more conservative. Don't give in to that. Like the more conservative you go, the better job you're going to do is cutting off Bernier's party, the more you can actually distinguish yourself as a better alternative. If you want to win as a conservative, you have to be conservative. Again, don't negate your values. So all in all, what are their chances of winning? Okay. They have okay chances. We'll see how it goes. All right. And that is the Conservative Party. On to the NDP, New Democratic Party, with their leader, Jagmeet Singh. So Jagmeet, so Singh, so all the time. This is Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the Conservative Party, and his superpower is, hey, look, a brown guy. Side note, brown people power is not valid in Quebec. Now, the reason I saw this, his superpower, is because Justin Trudeau's rhetoric is essentially, life is unfair, racism is in the ether, socialist nonsense. The only thing that would make me better as an evil white man is if I was a brown person or a person of color. Socialist nonsense. Whereas Jagmeet Singh is able to get up there and say, life's unfair, racism is everywhere, socialist nonsense, but hey, look, I am a brown guy. And, of course, the radical lefties who might say, what's a Jagmeet Singh, not paying attention, and like, oh, look, I can vote for him because he's a different color and I can feel not racist. So that is his superpower, is, hey, look, a brown guy, not valid in Quebec. And we'll go over Quebec in a second. Now, who is his campaign manager? Who wants Jagmeet Singh to get elected? Is there anyone really going for Jagmeet Singh? I guess his mom. We'll say this is Jagmeet Singh's mom. She is his #1 fan, I assume. Jagmeet Singh's mom is going to vote for him. Is anyone else? Who knows? Okay. Jagmeet Singh's party policy. We can run through this all pretty quickly. There's a lot here. Price controls on everything. That will wreck the economy. Pharmacare, rent control, free university, free daycare. Increase EI. Make EI easier to get. We'll get back in a second. Control the price of cell phones. Control the price of gas. Lower gas prices by increasing gas prices than lowering gas prices. Increase access to EI. Trust me, I used to do stand-up comedy, so I know a bunch of artists and comedians, and from talking to them, it's very, 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 very easy to get on EI in this country. It is not hard at all. So it needs to get even easier. I don't know how that could possibly be, but maybe we'll just hand everyone free money, and if you're not on EI, we'll just assume you'll give it back to the government. That's the only way we can make it easier here. Also, a policy of making jobs out of nowhere because green energy. So jobs are just going to spring up because Jagmeet says so. Tax the ultra-rich way more. And as we said, Justin Trudeau tried this. He increased taxes on the wealthy. Tax revenue went down. Jagmeet Singh will do this even more. Tax revenue will go down even more because capital flight and the Flow curve and everything we talked about previously. Now, good policy here by Jagmeet Singh, and we talked about how the Liberals destroyed small businesses. Jagmeet Singh's and the NDP's policy on small businesses is actually not that bad. They actually say they will lower taxes on small businesses, make it easier for small businesses to transfer ownership from father to son by taking away some of the transfer taxes. That is good. Now, they'll completely destroy the economy before they get there, but again, they do actually understand how mad small business owners are at the Liberal government for how badly they've been screwed over. So maybe they probably won't go back to the Stephen Harper years when it was strong, but they'll probably move from 78% to like 60%, which is still terrible, but technically better. So, see, I'm not totally biased. Woohoo. They will end free trade, install protectionist measures. They basically the worst of Trump and Bernie Sanders on trade, on crack. Jagmeet Singh is very, very against free trade. He is in for fair trade. No one knows what that means. Remember, Jagmeet Singh is the man of the debates who said free trade is bad, but then said Brexit is bad because it hurts free trade within the European Union. So what is Jagmeet Singh talking about? Environmental nonsense is a big part of here. We're going to be carbon-free by 2030, the UN mandate date. Yes, we're just going to, whatever the UN says, we're going to do it, right? We're going to be running on unicorn farts by the year 2030. Whoop-de-doo. Thank you, Jagmeet. Basically, on Indigenous affairs, he's borrowing Justin Trudeau's 2015 rhetoric, really not much chance. He's basically the structural problems within the reserve system, where the natives are kept down by oppressive government policies, ridiculous government policies, and convoluted socialism. He's going to increase the socialism, increase the convoluted policies, and increase the government pressure on them. And by increasing all the things that makes their lives miserable, he will somehow save them. Proportional representation. This is what Trudeau did not do before. Proportional representation is a horrendous idea. It is so stupid. Now, our election system is not perfect. But do you want a good example of proportional representation? Yesterday, Israel just had the second iteration of its election because the first one was stalled due to proportional representation. This one will also be stalled due to proportional representation, and they'll have to have a third election to try and get the results there. Which means for the next 2 years or so, they could keep having elections to try and get a new government because proportional representation has messed up the entire system. The only people who really benefit, there's the far right, the far crazy Arab Party coalition. Then you have the ultra-Orthodox parties. They gain power. So proportional representation is a recipe for sort of more extremist parties to come in. If you have a proportional representation, you'll always have crazy socialist parties. It would be good for the PPC because you could get more far-right parties. You would get an Islam party right away. They could get power. You would get an anti-Islam party. It would be a complete mess. It would be nonsense. They're going to fight hate. How are they going to fight hate? By policing social media, of course, because they're lefties. Now, probably my favorite policy here is they're going to give Quebec complete veto power over national infrastructure projects. So if you want to build a pipeline between Alberta and Saskatchewan, and one of the company has a headquarters in Quebec, Quebec can veto this entire thing. Why not? Why not just make? Why not have? Why not say? You know what? How about we abolish all provincial legislatures outside of Quebec, and we just mandate that everyone in the federal government has to do exactly what everyone in Quebec says. How about that? Brilliant. Brilliant. Now, the reason he's doing this is because the NDP have a lot of seats in Quebec. I believe they have 21 seats in Quebec. Their major seat of power is in Quebec. Because Quebec likes socialist nonsense vis-a-vis equalization. And, Quebec likes to think of itself as a social rights, social justice activist. Listen, if Quebec had a motto, it would be, we believe that everyone deserves equal rights and equal treatment as long as they are white and speak French. That is sort of the Quebec's mantra. Now, Quebec is currently going through Bill 21. Quebec doesn't like religious symbols, and Jagmeet Singh has a turban on his head. I have no problem with Jagmeet Singh wearing a turban. Turban up. You know what? Throw on, hijab your face, kippas, your hijabs under a turban. I don't care. Put on tefillin on your turban. Who cares? I don't care. Quebec cares, though. He realizes that he is really going to have to pander hard to the hardcore, you're going to see pro-separatists, giving Quebec crazy powers. And all of he's doing this because he is desperate, because this election could be decided in Quebec. Because they might just decide to go Liberal. They might go Bloc, which will give the Bloc a balance of power here. They're quite fed up with immigration, so they might finally go Conservative because they want to close the border because, again, Quebec, not real happy with all these fake refugees just running into their province. Again, that's that. So, now, what we really have to address with Jagmeet Singh is, my favorite storyline coming into this election is going to be how heroic Jagmeet Singh is to run as an Indian Canadian. He might be the first Indian Canadian Prime Minister of Canada. He would also be the first Prime Minister of Canada banned from India. So here's an article from the CBC a couple years ago on how Jagmeet Singh needs to get his story straight on the Air India bombing. So when asked about Talwar Singh Parmar, he's the architect of the Air India bombing, which is the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history. So this is like the Osama bin Laden of Canada. When he was asked 3 times about people who put up pictures, there are some Khalistani temples in Canada that you can go to, and they have a picture of this guy up there glorifying him as they see him as a hero. He's basically Canada's Osama bin Laden. Jagmeet Singh was unable to condemn people putting up posters of him, and when asked about him, he said, "We don't know who is responsible, but we want everyone to come to justice. I've disowned terrorism everywhere, blah, 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 blah. But I will show you the real reason he's not allowed into India, and that is because he's a Khalistani." So here is a clip of him speaking at a Khalistani rally in San Francisco in 2015. So he's going to say some things in English about calling India committing genocide and different things. We'll sort of give that more context after to see why India is so upset. And then there's a clip of him also talking in Punjabi, basically stating that he is a Khalistani. So
I want to talk to you today. We all know what happened in 1984. We all know that this was a genocide. If we look at it, 6 were targeted for wearing dastar and a gatra. Because if you look at Hindustan right now, Hindustan is built, India is built on inequality. ਸਾਡਾ ਹੱਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਜ਼ਾਦੀ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਧੱਕਾਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਾਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਫਿਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਿਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਹਮਲਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਖਤਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੋਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇਸ਼ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ, ਉਸ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੱਕ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇਸ਼ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ। ਤਾਂ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਔਖਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੂਣਾ। ਸੋ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸੋਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਣਾ ਘਰ ਜੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਘਰ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਨਾ ਬਣਾਈਏ। ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਹੱਕ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਡਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਖੋਲ ਕੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਸਾਡਾ ਕਾਨੂੰਨੀ ਹੱਕ ਆ ਤੇ ਇਹ ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਡਰਨਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ।
All right, I'm going to try and give this the best quick explanation I can of what's actually going on here and what the Khalistani movement is. So around 1982, the Punjab region straddles, it's in both Pakistan and India. Pakistan and India don't like each other. So the Pakistani ISI, in 1982, created the Khalistani movement. The Khalistanis are an extremist Sikh separatist faction wanting to violently separate from India. They're not supported by the majority of Sikhs, and they were started by Sikhs in Pakistan who were given weapons and ammunition and training by the Pakistani ISI. Then they were sent into India to create a Khalistani movement. And around 1984, so the genocide they talk about in 1984, here's what happened. Now, this is Operation Blue Star, if you Google it. So the head of the Khalistani terrorist operation, he basically held up in the holiest temple, holiest spot in the Sikh religion. So it's like if Osama bin Laden had been held up inside the Kaaba, the big black rock, if he had been in there for years. And then for years the Indian government were trying to get him out, peacefully, talks, different, whatever. Then they called to try to get him out. And then there was a massacre committed by the Khalistanis where hundreds of people were killed. I believe 39 of them themselves were Sikh. Now, so the military had to do something about this terrorist movement that was growing in strength and hold up in the temple. So they tried to get him out, and then Indira Gandhi sanctioned Operation Blue Star. And a lot of the officers and military people in there were actually Sikhs themselves. And here's the one thing that they will not talk about, and Jagmeet Singh will never tell you, and the Khalistanis will never tell you, is a lot of the fighting done in 1984, it was the Khalistanis who were not, so yes, it's extremist separatist Sikhs, but they were mainly fighting, a good half of what they were fighting were Sikhs who were Indian nationalists who wanted to be part of India. And again, India doesn't really discriminate against Sikhs. Sikhs have been prime minister in India. Sikhs were in the army. Sikhs were part of Operation Blue Star. Sikhs were killed by the Khalistanis. All right, Khalistanis killed Sikhs. So then they went in. So this is basically like doing a raid on Mecca. They killed them because they were using human shields as hostages. People were killed in the crossfire. And because this is holy ground, it enraged a lot of people. Indira Gandhi, his prime minister, two of his Sikh guards killed him. This started riots within the people. So there were massacres on all sides. So these were essentially riots in Delhi. Sikhs, Hindus against Sikhs, Sikhs against Hindus, Sikhs against Sikhs, Sikhs against Sikhs who are non-Khalistani Pakistani. And in total, so they call this a genocide. It's not a genocide. You know, maybe a few thousand people died, but this is counting both sides. So the violence here was, yes, bad, condemned all around. I'm not supporting any of it, but it was bad on all sides. And then in 1985, the worst terrorist attack in Canadian history happened, where Khalistanis bombed the Air India flight, where 320 people were killed, 323 I believe, and 280 of them were Canadian citizens. And Jagmeet Singh could not find it in his heart to condemn them. And in 2002, as a justice critic, he called on Canada to use our trade relations with India for leniency for the terrorist Balat Singh Rajana, who was involved in the plotting and the assassination of the Chief Minister of Punjab. So he doesn't repent. He's very in favor of this terrorist. This is a terrorist who admits he's a terrorist for terrorist reasons. Jagmeet Singh went full Ilhan Omar, trying to get him leniency. So this is Jagmeet Singh. This is why he's not allowed in India, because he supports the Khalistani terrorist movement. Now he will say mealy mouth, I don't, but he will never outright condemn the Khalistani movement, and he does work with their propaganda. So this is Jagmeet Singh. That's important to know when we talk about the NDP. All right, so that brings us to the end of the NDP's policies. Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how do I rate the NDP's policies? Out of 10, they are a Venezuela. Venezuela out of 10. Everything that made Venezuela the current hellhole it is in the NDP platform. So if you want to see what the NDP government would look like, move to Venezuela. That is the NDP. Which means the slogan for the NDP is really everything for free. Woohoo! All right, so what are their pathway towards victory? Minority government. The pathway towards victory is just being part of minority government. And what are their chances of winning or improving? They are... Okay, that concludes the NDP. Moving on to the Green Party. The Green Party of Canada is led by noted environmentalist and crazy tree lady, Elizabeth May. There she is in a gas-guzzling Dodge Viper telling you that you're a bad person if you own a car like a Dodge Viper. Oh, nothing says I care about the environment like a Green Party hypocrite. Okay. What is her superpower? Now, Elizabeth May's superpower is currently, it's called a narrative compliant shield. And her shield is a green shield, and it fits the narrative, right? The media wants to say that everything green is good, and they don't want to ever criticize any of their bad rhetoric. So all the logical flaws, all the structural flaws, all the economic flaws, all the radical leftism that Elizabeth May espouses, she's allowed to espouse it freely because she has a green shield. Because if you criticize her, right, then you say it's legitimate to criticize environmentalists when they're wrong, and that is a big no-no. So that is her superpower. Who is her campaign manager? Her campaign manager is Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh is doing his hardest to grow the Green Party by being the worst candidate the NDP's ever had. Now, I actually hope Jagmeet Singh gets a seat because I am a big fan of Jagmeet Singh. Didn't I just go off on him for being a terrorist sympathizer? Yes. But no one has destroyed the NDP better than Jagmeet Singh. Because the NDP is sort of based off blue-collar, working-class Canadian union workers. And some of those workers have the audacity to be cisgender white men. I know. And his social justice rhetoric, trying to out social justice rhetoric, Justin Trudeau, telling white men Canada's an evil place and white people are evil, actually isn't the best winning strategy with white men, believe it or not. So he's been at war with the base of the NDP since he got in, and I find that hilarious. Okay. So what are his policies? Platform for the Green Party. End the fossil fuel industry. Get off all fossil fuels. You want to heat your home with natural gas, oil? Nope. You're going to have to build a fire. Build a fire. Well, she goes and drives around in a Dodge Viper. Remember, no fossil fuels except at Dodge Vipers, apparently. No pipelines. No 21st century technology. This is why I don't take the Green Party seriously. No nuclear power. Right? Clean? Right? Thorium reactors. Can we talk about the new nuclear energy impact? No. Nope. Have to be blown by, unicorn farts or else it's bad. Basically, she wants to cede control of Canada to the UN on all issues, except turn every native tribe into sort of this super legislature where they all have unlimited power in Canada because they're environmental warriors. It makes no sense. It is a recipe for disaster to, one, increase corruption and financial instability within the native reserves while maximizing resentment from people outside the reserves towards them. But it's the left, so hey, whatever. All right, now let us get into, this is what Elizabeth May thinks about foreign policy. So that's environment, she's environmental, but she's trying to say she's a whole party. Let's see what Elizabeth May's foreign policy is.
Your platform also talks about replacing fighter jets with water bombers. Does that mean that you don't think Canada should be a part of NATO?
I think in terms of our engagement with NATO, we need to re-examine it. Greens are of the view that our involvement in NATO makes sense as long as we can ensure that NATO is part of a movement towards nuclear disarmament. It's urgent that Canada change our position around the treaty to abolish nuclear arms and nuclear weapons. We haven't signed it yet. We should. And we should use whatever position we have in NATO for some benefit that makes the world a more secure place.
How would we have that position if we had no fighter jets, though?
Well, I didn't say no fighter jets. The F-35s are a completely inappropriate plane for our needs. We need to look at what kind of fighter jets. Where is there an imminent threat that requires us to have a fighter bomber that can evade an enemy country's radar to get to them before they see us and bomb them first? This doesn't sound like any scenario that's plausible for our real interests of defense and security.
Does that mean you would reevaluate Operation Reassurance, participation in Operation Impact?
I think the over-militarized approach that this is all defense is about is participating in NATO missions. We should not participate in any missions around the world that are not sanctioned by the United Nations. NATO missions can still be illegal unless it's...
So you would re-examine Operation Impact, Operation Reassurance?
Yes.
And it wouldn't mean all fighter jets are being replaced. I just want to be clear on what you're...
You could be absolutely clear on that, yes.
Okay.
As you can see, Elizabeth May is currently in the year 1941, December 6, and meeting a bunch of Japanese generals who don't understand the concept of air power yet. Now, so her she's foreign policy. We should always listen to the UN, which means we should give Russia and China veto power over our entire military. Brilliant strategy. Brilliant strategy there. And somehow she's never going to be called a Russian pawn. But let's just think of how stupid it is. Replace, right, she doesn't want to be part of NATO, no missile defense, no Air Force. What do we need an Air Force for in today's modern military? Excuse me? Modern military, since World War II, since the invention of aircraft, ground troops are basically means of holding ground for air power, right? This is how the Israelis had worse technology but managed to win the 6 Days War against 13 different armies. Air superiority. This is how Pearl Harbor failed. The bombing of Pearl Harbor took out all the ships, but it didn't take out the aircraft carriers. Because America still had aircraft carriers, they learned quickly over the next coming months, oh, naval warfare is actually an extension of aerial warfare. That's why it's a game of protecting the landing strips or the battle carriers for aircrafts. So what do we need aircraft for in today's modern military? Are you kidding? Today's modern military is all about air power. So just general ignorance. And again, cede control of Canadian military to Russia and China. It's just nonsense. She took time out of the debate to just go off on Israel for no good reason. She just said, oh, Andrew Scheer wants to move the embassy to Jerusalem, just like Trump. But yeah, Yerushalayim, the city of David. She basically called that occupied, said it's like Russia occupying Crimea. Then she wanted to fund UNRWA. UNRWA has tunnels leading underground into Israel, has been shown to host weapon stocks, train kids about jihad, all that different type of stuff. Of course, everything's an occupation, bash Israel up and down, general lefty nonsense. Okay. So that brings us to the end of their policies. What are their policies on a scale of 1 to 10? It is a resounding 0. Actually, no, because it would completely destroy the entire economy and the entire planet. It is a negative 10. Negative 10 out of 10 for Elizabeth May and the Green Party, which means their slogan is Green Party, trees good, Jews bad. What is the pathway towards victory here? The NDP slipping up, gaining a few more things. They can get power by being in a liberal left-wing coalition government of nonsense and nightmares. So Chance is actually pretty good at gaining some ground. This is the most important. Election really in the entire Green Party history. This is their number one chance. So that should scare the hell out of everyone. All right. This brings us on to the Bloc Québécois. The Bloc Québécois with their leader Yves-François Blanchet. Right there. There is the French guy leading the Bloc Québécois. His superpower is, I guess, being from Quebec, saying Quebec things to Quebec people. Campaign manager, no one cares. It's Quebec talking about Quebec things. Platform, blah, 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 blah. We are Quebec. We want to be Quebec. And everyone's like, you are Quebec. You're fine. What are you talking about, Quebec? No, we are Quebec, and we want to be a nation. You must say that we are special. We're Quebec. Fine, Quebec is special. No, we are Quebec. Yes, you're Quebec. What's your problem? We are Quebec. That's their platform. Slogan, policies out of 10, fleur-de-lis out of 10. Their slogan, je l'ai bu, qu'est-ce que c'est, bibliothèque. Who cares? Who cares about the Bloc Québécois? Chances, screw them, they're Quebec. Or the Bloc Québécois. Bunch of dirty separatists. All right. Moving on to the sexy part of the show. The PPC with the leader Maxime Bernier. Maxime, the sexy libertarian Maxime, kicking the dairy industry in the nuts every day. Now, his superpower is the possession of a spine. Yes, this is a thing full of, you see, vertebrates up and down here. This gives him the ability to stand up to the radical left and actually say things that people like hearing. He is not afraid of the media, and this is his number one asset. It is a spine. His campaign manager is Andrew Scheer drinking a carton of milk. Yes, let's just throw away all our conservative principles and throw billions of dollars at the dairy industry, even though doing so makes things more expensive because there's also controls on product production. Oh my God, I hate the milk mafia. He's so right about it. Okay. Moving on. The PPC's platform is what's got everyone sort of excited here. They're the only party to sort of release a comprehensive platform and run it. And how do conservative-minded people view the platform of the PPC? Well, generally like this. Dynamite. That's exactly what it is. Now, so that's the big problem within the conservative PPC debate is we like Maxime Bernier because he's pushing the conservatives into a more conservative direction. We like everything he's saying. We just don't trust his chances of winning. And for a good reason, because he doesn't have a lot. Now, I already know what's happening on the video in the future during this video, and when this video is cut out, and what you're doing right now, we actually have live footage of a PPC person and a CPC person talking to each other in the comments. Do we have the live footage for us right now? No? Oh, come on. Okay, never mind. That was going to be a great gig, but it's going to be cut out anyway. Anyway. All right, so what is in the platform? Let's just go down the things. Veterans at the top. Good thing putting the veterans at the top because Trudeau likes terrorists, support the veterans. Okay. And the official policy of multiculturalism. This takes a lot of time to get into, but if you want to read more about it, Salim Mansour's book, A Liberal Refutation of Multiculturalism, makes a lot of sense. Basically, I like multiculturalism as sort of an ethos, right? I don't mind ethnic plurality, people from everywhere, but the political policy of multiculturalism is incoherent at best, right? And I think we're at the point where we really need to talk about this, and a lot of people agree. End open borders. He outright called the people coming in from New York State, fleeing the horrible war that is in New York State, fake refugees, because they are fake refugees. So good. End open borders. And by the way, the Greens and the NDP embraced open borders debate. I forgot to mention that. Reduce immigration to 100,000 to between 100 and 150,000. Now, again, a lot of people agree. I think this number is a bit too low. But I would rather it be at 200,000, but honestly, because we're at way too much now, I said immigration isn't good, immigration isn't bad. The right amount of immigration is good, meaning right now doing lower than, because we have too much now, it's better to be lower when you're at too much than too much when you're at lower. So I can forgive it. Pipelines, do something about in pipelines. Good. Yes, actually ignore the environmental hysteria and get energy to market. Good, good, good. Free speech. Stop policing things on the internet. Stand up for Canadian values. Good. Foreign policy. Basically, the foreign policy can be said, screw the UN. Shut up. No one's listening to you. We're going to pull out all the Global Compact on Migration, the Paris Accords, all these UN dictates. We're going to do what's best for Canadian interests. We're not ceding control to globalist nonsense. Again, push back and not give in to the climate alarmism. Again, climate alarmism. A spine. He's not going to listen to these crazy lefties. Supply management. The milk mafia. Oh, we go into it. It's killing the economy. Again, we subsidize milk and dairy and somehow make it more expensive. End this. Free trade. In between Canadian provinces. Yes, Canada, if you believe it or not, doesn't actually have free trade in Canada. That's how crazy things are now. So, reduce the trade barriers in between provinces. Great. Gun owner rights. I'm not a big one. Reform equalization. Yes, finally, stop. We have to stop giving into the demands of Quebec where they can just do all the socialist nonsense and just hope Alberta pays for it. No, if you want to get equalization, you actually have to pay into something. Or if you want equalization, you can't be stalling pipelines. So either you vote in Canadian interests or you don't get money from the rest of Canada because, it's nonsense. All right, so that wraps up the PPC's platform. Out of 10, I'll give it 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Solid. Everyone likes it. Solid, solid, solid. Cool, 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 cool. Which means the PPC's real slogan is, damn those commie bastards, freedom! Gotta love them. All right, what is their pathway towards victory here? And, okay. If the PPC, now, their ultimate goal is to sort of gain some seats to be in government and continue to push Canada towards their values. I mean, that's the realistic goal. Canada. The way they need to do this is grow, they need to cut out the sheer dough crap. They need to cut out this nonsense of Andrew Scheer is a globalist who's just the same as Justin Trudeau. I'd offer to them a better campaign slogan is try and pitch Scheer as Justin Trudeau light or diet Justin Trudeau. That is a much better thing. But you're not going to be able to go into the debate stage when Andrew Scheer is saying, I want to lower taxes and being attacked by the left and right. And you say, they're just the same. They're all the same. People are going to realize you're lying and people don't like when you lie to them. So they need to be seen as the people with the balls to fight the radical left, not a bitter ex-girlfriend. So that's what Maxime Bernier is going to have to fight against. There's going to be a perception that the Conservatives are going to try and push on him that he's just his bitter ex-girlfriend, right? That's why he's why are you so obsessed with me? That meme. In order for the PPC to grow long-term, they can't be seen as the infighters with the Conservatives. They have to be seen as the people who will fight against radical left-wing ideology. They have to be seen as the home for people who want someone to tell Jagmeet Singh, shut up, that makes no sense. Who, when Elizabeth May says we want to destroy the entire economy, says this is why it'll destroy the entire economy. This is why libertarian principles are good. This is why no, they are fake refugees. They want to see someone who fights the radical left, not someone who will fight the Conservative Party because they're bitter because they didn't win. And again, this comes from someone who supported Maxime Bernier during the leadership debate. So that is their pathway towards victory or gaining status. It's to be seen as the fighters of the radical left, not the bitter ex-girlfriend of the Conservative Party. So that wraps up our analysis of the parties. Again, so vote for who you want. Just make sure it's not the Liberals, the NDP, or the Greens, or the Bloc, and you're good. And remember, it is a first-past-the-post parliamentary system, which is why we all love the PPC, but they can't win, because this isn't like Trump, this isn't like Brexit. You have to win major areas within, and I root for them. And I'm going to actually point out here, the PPC members you should vote for, Tahir Gora, Salim Mansour, Dave Haskell, and Maxime Bernier. No matter what, vote for them, because I think they're more important to have in power. But I already made that video. So that's today's episode. If you want to know about the extremists in the other parties, we will be doing some videos. There's a Conservative Party candidate that just can't speak English, and I'm gonna find out a way to basically expose this idiot because it's hilarious. So thank you for tuning in. Remember, every Wednesday night we go live. We talk about whatever it is. Thank you so much for joining in. Like the page, share the video, subscribe to the page. If you're on YouTube, do something, get a tattoo of my face onto your face. All in all, make your grandmother proud. Like this page. All right, thanks. I'll see you next week. In a world gone mad, only one man, okay, maybe more, had the courage to ramble on.